Welcome to the ISO Show, dispelling myths and sharing tips for success to improve your business with ISO standards.
If you're listening to this podcast, then you're in great company. We've got thousands of listeners who have a thirst for continual improvement and raising standards in business. Whether your interest is in quality, sustainability, or risk standards, I'd love to welcome you as a member to our online platform for all things ISO, the ISology Hub. The ISology Hub is the leading place to get access to all of your online resources, from in-depth training courses through to our very popular coffee break training, to templates and action plans and many other resources to help raise standards. As a member, you get access to over 100 courses, taking you from learner to practitioner to leader. The ISology Hub has all the resources that you need, which will really help to make your life easier and to help improve compliance in those business critical areas. So if you'd like access to learning and compliance resources ranging from data privacy to environmental management, anti-bribery, business continuity, quality, health and safety, to name just but a few, the list is endless actually, then we'd love for you to come and join us. Just head over to the isologyhub.com.
Hello everybody, I'm Ian Battersby, a senior isologist at Blackmores UK Limited. Today we've got a little bit of an interview, question and answer session with one of our clients. I don't always get to interview people I've actually worked with, and that's quite good sometimes because I get to learn quite a lot. But I have had the pleasure of working with our guest today. Our guest is Paul Barnacle, who works for an organisation called Clyde Co. They've worked pretty tirelessly, actually, in the last 18 months, probably, on achieving a certificate for ISO 50001, which is the energy management standard. Paul led that for Clyde Co. So, Paul, welcome. Firstly, tell us what your role in Clyde Co is.
Morning, Ian. Yeah, my role within Clyde Co is I head up health, safety, security, and energy management for the firm.
Excellent. And as I said, I've worked with you. I have to say it was an absolute pleasure, Paul, when I worked with you. It's my first introduction to 50001 after I'd gone through a bit of training to understand the standard. And I did a peer review with Darren, who'd worked with you originally, our colleague Darren. And then I did the auditing with you at different sites. And it was great. It was great fun, actually. I really enjoyed it. So thank you for that. It was good. Before we begin on the technical stuff, the boring stuff, can you introduce yourself with something that not many people might know in a professional sense about you? So something personal about you as a person, yeah?
Something personal. Okay, well, as I said, I'm Paul Barnacle. I head up health, safety, security, and energy management for the firm. Something that not many people will know about me. Well, Ian, when I'm not keeping people safe at work and looking at ways to reduce energy, I'm an avid fisherman, which means I spend a lot of time in the rain telling myself it's a relaxing hobby, and also telling my family about the one that keeps getting away.
Oh, yeah. Fisherman's tales always. Yeah. It's not something I've ever got into. I think I've sat beside people who were keen anglers in the past, and I'm like, why are you sitting here in the middle of the night just staring at still waters and not actually catching anything?
Yeah, we always catch you, so you're more than welcome to join us for a session in the summer.
I'm guessing it's calming and peaceful, is it?
No, absolutely not. So it's cold, it's wet, and it's always a challenge.
So before we talk about 50001, can you tell us a bit about Clyde Co? As I said, I've had the pleasure of working with you, and I've got the merchandise to prove it. If nobody's ever met Clyde Co, they're very, very generous with pens. So I've got lots of pens, and there's one in front of it I always have a Clyde Co pen with me. So I always think of you.
Brilliant.
Tell us more about the organisation.
So, Clyde Co is a leading global law firm helping organisations successfully navigate risk and maximise opportunities across various sectors such as the insurance sector, professional services, aviation, marine, construction, and also energy. At present, the firm has over 500 partners with a total headcount of 5,500 people operating across 70 offices across the world.
And I was quite surprised. I mean, I wasn't aware of you as a company before I started working with you. And when I was invited to start work, as we all do, did a bit of research and looked into you as an organisation. And I was quite struck that how many people you actually have and your widespread. How many offices in the UK did we work with on your 50,001?
So in the scope and boundary of 50,001 for the UK and the Republic of Ireland, we have 9 offices that are currently in scope.
So you've got quite a footprint. You know, your energy needs are quite significant, aren't they? That's something. So tell us about why you wanted to achieve 50,001. What were the main drivers that said, right, we need to do this?
One of the main drivers was to have clear links into our net zero strategy. And we wanted to understand, or we wanted to identify the best fit with regards to an ISO standard. So after a number of conversations with the Chief Sustainability Officer and, reviewing various ISO standards which were out there and available to us, we landed on ISO 50001. It was thought that it would give us clear visibility of our energy consumption, where we can improve, but ultimately help us reduce our Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions.
Yeah, and what struck me when talking to you was that you'd considered 14,001, hadn't you? But the type of organisation you are, you felt that energy being your most significant impact was a thing you wanted to concentrate on, wasn't it?
No, absolutely. And I think 14,001, very good standard, but we have no industrial processes.
Yes.
We don't manufacture any products. So it was really a clear fit with ISO 50001 with, the use of energy and where we can reduce our energy consumption and usage across our footprint. So it just seemed like to be a better fit, ultimately, supporting with our net zero strategy.
And I think that's an important decision that organisations need to make to distinguish themselves in some way, depending on the type of organisation they are. For, like you said, no industrial process. 14,001, I think for you suggested it was a bit vague for your own purposes. So I think a clear decision to focus on what was important. How long did it take you then from deciding let's go for this? How long did it take to achieve certification?
So we started ISO, or the work or the journey for ISO 50001 in early August 2024, and we completed our stage 2 in April the 11th 2025. So a total of 9 months from doing our gap analysis and then completing our stage 2 audit with the awarding body.
That's a fairly nifty schedule, isn't it? You did well, didn't you?
Yeah, we managed to cram quite a lot of work in. So we had lots of good information already.
Yeah.
It was just a case of making sure it was in a format suitable, ready to go into the audit process with the awarding bodies.
And you mentioned the gap analysis. What was your biggest gap when you first started out? It was like, oh my word, what don't we have?
Yeah, to be quite honest, the gap analysis was really key to the whole process. We had lots of gaps, and I think, to be quite honest, it really set the tone of the work that was involved. I think the main gaps that we identified was we didn't have a structured management system in place. We didn't have, or I didn't even understand at the time, what a scope and boundary document was. We didn't know, or I didn't know, what format the Register of Energy Saving Opportunities needed to look like. We didn't have a continuous improvement log. So there was lots of key documents that we identified during that initial gap analysis exercise that really drove the entire project.
And those things that you identified as missing clearly through the certification process, you managed to develop, implement, and embed. What was the benefit of all of that?
There's lots of key benefits, and like I say, I keep coming back to the gap analysis because it's key to the whole process. But I think one of the main benefits of actually implementing 50,001, it enables the business to have much more clear visibility of where we can improve on our energy consumption. But then it also allows us to demonstrate to our network of clients that we are doing the right thing and we're taking a proactive approach to energy management.
The visibility thing, when I met with you and looked at your data and your monitoring, that visibility was really quite obvious. You've got absolute granularity, haven't you, of where you're using energy and when, and if there's a spike in use, why that might have happened, and the investigation of that. It was quite clear.
Yeah, and I think we was in a really good position going into the gap analysis, especially with the data that we had, because we carry out the annual SECAR audits. We're also involved in ESOS. So a lot of that, or those audits, are driven by data. So we was in a really good position to have the data.
Good, yeah.
It was just we'd not created the tools to take it to the next step, which had then allowed us to really drill down into the data. And as you say, if we was to see spikes in energy levels or energy consumption, it would then allow us to drill down and pinpoint why we had a certain spike.
Yes, indeed. And you mentioned clients there and demonstrating to them your approach and your commitment. Your commitment was quite clear, actually, when I met with you and Paddy. Are your clients driving you with their specific needs here?
And we're seeing this more and more. So clients are now, asking to see what our energy performance indicators look like, our KPIs that we're doing in order to reduce our scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3 emissions. So this just enables us to give our clients visibility that we are doing what we're committed to those clients.
And that with your data underpins that. You said you were set up quite well in the first place, so data's key, isn't it?
Yeah, the data is key, but then it also allows us to demonstrate continuous improvement year on year against, the various energy performance indicators that we set ourselves as an organisation.
Yeah. And your energy performance indicators then, are you finding that they are useful, not just in demonstrating to clients, but within the business? Do people look at those and think, right, we're doing well, this helps us to improve?
Yeah, one thing that we have started to do now is share our energy performance indicators and also quarterly data. So a number of key initiatives that we've started to introduce since implementing ISO is around energy performance indicators and how those energy performance indicators have allowed us to achieve a reduction in energy consumption. So on a quarterly basis, we are going to start sharing that information with all members of staff across all regions. So then it actually shows them that by doing this, we are doing the right thing, and they will themselves have clear visibility that what we're doing is actually working.
Great. So you feel you are achieving real improvement on the back of implementing then?
No, absolutely. And we're engaging with more people on a more regular basis. So that's an energy management team. We've also got tech champions that are involved. And we're asking people to actually come up with their own energy performance indicators and sharing them with our own internal energy management team. So people feel that they're involved and their suggestions are being listened to.
No, that's key, actually. All of the management system standards have that principle embedded within them, that you promote the system. You promote to people why it's important to be involved and what they can do to contribute. And I think you've touched on that with you've devolved the responsibility out to people. And that really helps, doesn't it?
It does. And I think a really good route that we've used is in our own internal intranet system, where we've got mailboxes that are set up for people to submit any queries, questions, areas for improvement. Staff have got access, or they will have access shortly, to an interactive QR code. So if people are walking around any of the offices, they can scan a QR code and they can submit any areas for opportunities, any concerns they have, or anything that they see as best practice that we can then implement on a bigger scale.
Excellent. That simple adoption of technology that people understand is really quite useful, isn't it? People know how to do these things in their normal everyday life. So adopting it in the workplace just is an extension of that, isn't it?
Absolutely. What I'm trying to achieve here is I want to try and change people's behaviours and get the engagement piece right. Once we get the engagement piece right, then hopefully any more detailed technical changes, they will be a lot easier to implement.
Yeah, the cultural side is absolutely key to all of the standards, I think. If you were to give somebody a tip as to what's really important about implementing an ISO standard, this particular one, what tip would you give to somebody?
Get a copy of the appropriate standards, read the standards and read them again. It's key to understand the various clauses in the standards, because that will then help you understand. And people will probably have lots and lots of really good information or management systems or evidence that will support them along their journey. So I think, understanding the standards is key. But then I come back to having really strong data. If you've got really strong data, that will help you calculate, a really strong baseline, but then it will also help with implementing future energy performance indicators.
Yeah, I mean, data helps to drive decision making really well, doesn't it? That's the thing. But interesting. How did you find reading the standard and reading it again? Because it's not everybody's cup of tea, is it? I mean, we're immersed in them and we still struggle with the nuances, and daily we as a team learn more and more about them. And doing this sort of thing, talking to clients and implementing with clients, helps me to understand them more. So, as somebody new to a standard, how did you find reading it and reading it again?
Awful.
So your top tip is to do something awful.
Do something. I read the standards. I didn't understand the standards. I sat with Darren and we went through the different clauses and the different requirements. And I was reading them and I thought, okay, we've got a really good piece of evidence that we can cross reference onto that clause. And then Darren quickly educated me to say, that's absolutely not what it's asking, Paul. So go away and find. So having the support of Darren and yourself was fantastic. But I think, just trying to understand what those various clauses are asking, because even though you think a number of the clauses may be very, very similar, they are asking for something very, very different. So it's having the knowledge and guidance of being able to just drill that little bit further down and then identifying the evidence that you can have or implement to meet those clauses.
We're here to translate. That's what we do for people. Our job is to look at the standards and put it into English or business language for people who aren't used to reading this sort of thing. And it's like reading legislation. It can be mind-numbing. It really can. And you're lucky in a way, because to me, 50,001 is a mercifully short and sweet standard.
Wow.
You compare it to 9,001 and other things. Look at business continuity management. You would have pulled your hair out reading those. So you picked a reasonable one to read.
Yeah, but to be quite honest, I've looked at ISO 27001.
All right.
And that's, although I don't have any direct involvement with 27001, I touch on it during my normal day-to-day roles. But again, those standards are, it's a minefield to make sure you are compliant with those. So yeah, the standards, I'd always say, get the support of somebody with the knowledge.
Yeah, we are here to help. And what's interesting is that the requirements are written in quite generic ways so that they can be applied to any type of organisation. And the trick often is trying to interpret it for a particular audience, and that can be quite difficult. Fortunately, when it's an environment like yours where you're very much office-based and service-driven, it can be relatively straightforward. We have some quite complex organisations where we have to apply it. Every day is a school day, as one of our colleagues used to say. So moving on from the specifics of 50,001 then, back to you, Paul, as a person. We end on this sort of thing every time. If you could gift a book to somebody, what would it be and why?
Well, I was going to say I'd gift an edition of Angling Times, but I know not everyone's a keen fisherman like me. So a book that I've been reading since my ISO journey, and it was recommended to me by somebody outside of the business, and it's a book titled Sustainable Energy Without Hot Air. And it's a book by David McKay, and it's all about understanding sustainable energy, and it's translating things into plain English. It allows you to identify good energy performance indicators, and energy performance indicators can be identified across all businesses, but it's key. They've got to be good energy performance indicators, which allows you to show a reduction in energy consumption. So, yeah, great book, and I suppose that would be a book I would gift to anybody.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the whole subject is filled with hot air, isn't it? There are so many half-truths and mistruths around the subject about why sustainable energy is not the route to take and why it's a failure and why the system in Spain collapsed due to sustainable energy, but not really when you look into it. It's about the grid being balanced, and people just don't get that. People aren't educated by the media around this either. They've got their own agenda as to why you shouldn't even bother with it. But that's for another day, another podcast, potentially. Moving on then, I always ask this. What is your favourite quote that you would like to leave our listeners with? Your parting shot, as it were.
Parting shot, favourite quote. I think it's got to be a quote from Abraham Lincoln. And he says, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." And I think that's what is quite key to what I'm doing at the moment, especially in my energy role. So I'm trying to, predict the future by creating it now. So by implementing, various energy performance indicators that link into our net zero strategy, we are predicting what the future looks like for the whole of Clyde Co.
Yeah. And that quote applies to all of us, really, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
He's a man I think of often, Abraham Lincoln, principally not just because of his great vision, but because we share a birthday, he and I, and Charles Darwin. And in fact, Abraham Lincoln and Charles Darwin were both born on the very same day, on the 12th of February, 1809. So I am in great company, I have to say.
And as you said, every day's a school day, Ian.
Every day is a school day. Yeah. So, Paul, thanks. It's always a pleasure. And hopefully I'll get to visit you again at some point in the near future.
Looking forward to it, Ian.
I need more pens, so...
Thanks, Ian.
So, thanks, Paul. Great to have you on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. That's been the ISO show. Please, if you would, leave us a review. Always helps. You can subscribe to the ISO show on any of your favourite podcasting channels. If you have any ideas, any comments, anything you'd like us to cover in the future, please either contact us through the comments on your channels or email us direct. Always happy to hear from you. So from me, Ian, pleasure again, Paul. We'll see you again on the next ISO show. Goodbye.
Looking to use ISO standards to drive better business practice? Contact us at blackmoresuk.com to access further information and book your free 15-minute call.